Everything you want is already here. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Not in some distant, mystical dimension. It's here, right now, vibrating in the invisible lattice of reality, waiting for the precise energetic command that tells the quantum field, collapse this possibility into my experience. And yet, for most people, those possibilities remain untapped, flickering like unclaimed radio signals because their energetic transmission is scrambled. This is the unspoken reason why so many manifestation attempts fail. Not because the universe is stingy or destiny is fixed, but because most people unknowingly commit subtle but powerful energetic errors that interrupt the delicate conversation between consciousness and reality. Imagine standing in front of a perfectly tuned mirror that reflects not your physical appearance, but the exact texture of your inner state. Every thought, every emotion, every hidden belief radiates outward, hits the fabric of the universe, and returns as your lived experience. You can't trick this mirror. It doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to the frequency you are. When your desires are clear but your underlying state is fragmented, the mirror sends back fragmented reflections. When your heart says yes, but your nervous system vibrates with fear, the field listens to the fear. This is where most people unconsciously sabotage their manifestations, not through lack of effort, but through lack of energetic coherence. To understand why this happens, we have to revisit one of the strangest, most profound discoveries in physics, the double-slit experiment. Physicists fired particles through two slits to see how they behaved. When no one observed, the particles acted like waves, creating an interference pattern that represented infinite possibilities. But the moment an observer focused attention, those same particles collapsed into fixed points, as if reality itself was waiting for consciousness to choose. The implications are staggering. At the quantum level, reality doesn't exist in a fixed state until observed. Your attention is the architect, the sculptor, the activator. Every moment you observe with clarity, you select one line of probability from an infinite field. Now think about what happens when your observation is clouded. One moment you're certain, the next you doubt. You set an intention, but keep replaying past failures in your mind. You ask the field to deliver something extraordinary, but your emotional body vibrates with scarcity. What outcome do you think collapses into form? Not the lofty desire, but the dominant frequency. It's like trying to paint a masterpiece while someone keeps shaking your hand. The brush is still in your grip, but the image keeps warping. Mystical traditions have been whispering this truth for centuries. Vedanta speaks of Maya, the illusion shaped by perception. Hermetic philosophy declares, the all is mind, the universe is mental. In ancient Egyptian mystery schools, initiates were trained to master their inner state because they understood the outer world to be a mirror of the inner. These teachings, once considered esoteric, now resonate strikingly with what quantum physics is beginning to reveal. Consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it participates in creating it. But if this knowledge is so powerful, why isn't it mainstream? Why don't we learn this in school? Because a population that understands its role as observer, creator, and energetic architect is a population that can't be easily controlled. Systems of power thrive on predictability. If you're convinced reality is fixed, you become a passive consumer of it, not a conscious sculptor. If you believe outcomes are external, you'll look outward for solutions, never realizing the switchboard is inside you. And yet, here you are listening not by accident, but because a part of you remembers. You've experienced glimpses of it before. The uncanny synchronicity that led you to the right person at the right time, the intuitive nudge that proved accurate, the sudden opportunity that felt orchestrated. These weren't random. They were moments where your frequency aligned perfectly with the field, where observation, emotion, and intention harmonized, and reality responded like a well-tuned instrument. What if that wasn't luck? What if that's your natural state, and everything else has just been interference? Before we go deeper, take a breath. Let it be a moment of conscious alignment. This journey we're embarking on isn't about blind belief. It's about reclaiming the forgotten mechanics of how consciousness interacts with the fabric of reality. And if this resonates, if some part of you is lighting up right now, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Because here, we don't just talk about reality creation, we explore it, experiment with it, and live it. Subscribing isn't just clicking a button. It's a way of saying to the field, I choose to observe consciously. But this raises a crucial question. If the field mirrors us so precisely, what exactly are the most common energetic mistakes that distort the reflection? Why do people with clear goals and sincere hearts still manifest mixed or disappointing results? The answer lies in subtle energetic misalignments, errors so habitual they often go unnoticed. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Because the story doesn't end here. It goes deeper, into the hidden architecture of frequency, emotion, and attention that governs what shows up in your reality. The first and perhaps most insidious energetic error is emotional incoherence. You can visualize the outcome, write it down, create vision boards, chant affirmations, but if your emotional body vibrates with doubt, fear, or impatience, the signal that reaches the field is scrambled. The quantum field doesn't respond to surface thoughts. It responds to the underlying emotional frequency. You might say, "I'm abundant," but if your chest tightens every time you think about money, the field listens to the tightness, not the words. It's like trying to transmit a beautiful song on a radio station filled with static. The melody never reaches the receiver intact. This is why ancient practices place so much emphasis on cultivating inner stillness. The yogic traditions, for example, saw the mind as both a lens and a transmitter. A cloudy lens cannot project a clear image, and a shaky transmitter sends out fragmented signals. Emotional coherence is like tuning that transmitter to a single, stable frequency. When your heart, mind, and nervous system vibrate in harmony, the field receives a clear instruction. Modern research backs this up. Studies from the HeartMath Institute show that coherent heart rhythms not only influence our physiology, but seem to create a measurable electromagnetic field that interacts with our surroundings. This isn't metaphor, it's physics meeting mysticism. The second common error is what might be called unconscious observation. Many people set intentions once, briefly, then spend the rest of their days observing reality through the lens of their old story. They look at their bank account and feel lack. They replay conversations and reinforce their insecurities. They scroll through social media and compare themselves to curated illusions. Every one of these acts is an observation, collapsing a particular reality. The field doesn't distinguish between intentional and habitual observation. It simply responds to what is being most consistently witnessed with emotional weight. In other words, if you set an intention for wealth but spend most of your time emotionally reacting to scarcity, the field listens to scarcity. This is where the silent observer technique becomes powerful. Ancient mystics called it witnessing. Modern quantum thinkers call it non-local awareness. It means learning to hold your awareness slightly behind your thoughts and emotions, like a calm eye at the center of a storm. From this place, you observe without collapsing every passing fear or doubt into form. You let thoughts arise but don't assign them power. You notice emotional surges but remain anchored in presence. Over time, this breaks the cycle of unconscious observation and allows intentional frequencies to dominate. The third energetic misstep is resistance disguised as control. Manifestation isn't about forcing the universe to comply with your timeline. It's about aligning with the version of reality where your desire already exists and allowing it to unfold. Yet many people, out of fear, try to micromanage every step. They set the intention but then cling to outcomes, constantly check for signs, and panic when nothing happens immediately. This state of grasping creates a counterfrequency, a subtle message to the field that says, "I don't trust this." And the field, ever faithful, reflects mistrust. There's a paradox here that both mystics and physicists have stumbled upon. True influence over reality comes not from force, but from coherence and surrender. In the quantum realm, possibilities don't collapse under pressure. They collapse under clear, steady observation. Similarly, spiritual traditions have always emphasized detachment, not as indifference, but as a recognition that once the signal is sent clearly, the universe will rearrange itself in the most efficient way possible. Your job is to maintain coherence, not control every detail. The fourth and perhaps most overlooked error is neglecting the role of identity. Manifestation doesn't respond to fleeting wishes. It responds to who you are being. You can't manifest abundance while identifying as someone who's constantly struggling. You can't manifest love while fundamentally believing you're unworthy. The field mirrors your dominant identity, not your temporary intentions. This is why some people seem to effortlessly manifest. They've aligned their self-concept with their desires. They're not pretending, they're embodying. Consider the analogy of a tuning fork. When you strike one fork and hold another nearby tuned to the same frequency, the second fork begins to vibrate. This is resonance. Your identity is the tuning fork that determines which possibilities in the field will resonate and collapse into your experience. If your desired reality doesn't resonate with your current self-concept, the signal remains weak. Transformation, then, isn't just about setting goals. It's about shifting into the version of you for whom those goals are natural. But the story doesn't end there, because even when people begin to correct these errors, they often encounter a subtle but powerful obstacle: the gravitational pull of their past. The human brain is wired for prediction. It constantly scans the environment to anticipate what's next, based on what it's experienced before. If your past is filled with lack, heartbreak, or disappointment, your brain tries to keep you safe by assuming the future will echo the past. This isn't malevolent, it's survival. But energetically, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's where conscious creation diverges from unconscious repetition. When you become aware of the pull of your past narratives, you can choose to stop feeding them with your observation. You begin to observe new possibilities with greater emotional weight than the old stories. Over time, the field responds to the dominant pattern. This is why many mystics spoke of dying before you die, shedding the old identity so a new one can be born. And if you're feeling a stir inside you right now, that's not random. That's the field responding to your shift in awareness. You're beginning to look at reality differently, not as something that happens to you, but something that happens through you. This is the threshold where theory becomes power. By the end of this journey, you'll know exactly how to adjust these energetic dials so your manifestations stop misfiring and start arriving with precision. Yet, a deeper question arises. Once these errors are seen and understood, how do we translate this awareness into daily life? How do we bring quantum principles and ancient wisdom out of the abstract and into our relationships, finances, health, and opportunities? The answer lies in practical alignment, daily rituals, and subtle shifts that transform understanding into embodiment. Because knowing the mechanics isn't enough, you must live them. And that's exactly where we're heading next. The real alchemy begins when awareness turns into lived experience, when you stop treating manifestation as an occasional ritual and start embodying it as a state of being. This is where theory dissolves into practice and reality begins to respond with uncanny precision. Imagine waking up in the morning not as someone hoping their life will change, but as someone who understands that every thought, every emotional vibration, every act of observation is sculpting the day ahead. When you inhabit that level of conscious presence, ordinary moments become portals, and the field begins to reorganize around your clarity like iron filings aligning to a magnet. One of the simplest yet most profound practices is what could be called a reality audit. It begins the moment you wake up. Before checking your phone, before engaging with yesterday's narratives, you pause. You breathe. You observe your inner state with radical honesty. Are you carrying fear from yesterday? Are you rehearsing scenarios of lack before the day has even started? This moment of observation is crucial, because whatever you allow to dominate your inner world in those first few moments sets the frequency for everything that follows. Instead of unconsciously replaying the past, you become the architect of the present. This is where journaling synchronicities becomes more than a spiritual hobby. It becomes a feedback loop with the quantum field. By recording moments of alignment, repeating numbers, unexpected opportunities, intuitive nudges that prove accurate, you train your brain to notice the subtle ways reality is already communicating with you. What once seemed like random coincidences begin to form patterns, and these patterns strengthen your trust in the process. Trust is not blind faith, it's coherent observation reinforced by experience. The more you witness the field responding, the more stable your frequency becomes, and the stronger your manifestations arrive. Relationships transform when this awareness is applied. Instead of seeing conflicts as random frustrations, you begin to view them as mirrors, vibrational feedback revealing where your inner state is misaligned. A partner's criticism might highlight your hidden insecurities. A friend's distance might mirror your own emotional withdrawal. When you view others as mirrors rather than enemies, the dynamic changes. You shift from reacting to creating. You stop collapsing the same conflict over and over, and begin observing and embodying new patterns. This doesn't mean tolerating toxicity. It means understanding the energetic dialogue beneath the surface and responding with coherence rather than chaos. Finances, too, shift when you stop approaching them from desperation and start embodying abundance as a frequency. Most people try to manifest wealth while vibrating lack, and the field faithfully mirrors that. But when you treat your financial reality as a reflection of your inner state, you begin to change the frequency rather than chase the outcome. You cultivate gratitude for existing resources, align your identity with stability and flow, and take inspired action from a place of coherence rather than panic. The field responds not to your begging, but to your being. Health follows the same principle. The body is not a separate machine. It is an extension of consciousness. Chronic stress is a misalignment between thought and being, a persistent frequency that instructs the body to remain in survival mode. When you enter coherence through breath, presence, meditation, or simple awareness, the nervous system recalibrates. Cells receive different instructions. You move from a state of contraction to a state of flow, and the body mirrors that shift. Ancient traditions understood this intimately, even if they used different language. Modern science is only beginning to catch up, recognizing how states of consciousness directly impact biochemistry. Creativity and opportunities unfold in unexpected ways once these principles are embodied. What used to feel like uphill battles begin to feel like doors opening at just the right moment. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural result of aligning your internal broadcast with the reality you wish to experience. When you become the tuning fork of your desired frequency, life doesn't need to be forced. It's magnetized. The people, ideas, and synchronicities that match your frequency start gravitating toward you, often in ways your rational mind could never have orchestrated. But perhaps the deepest transformation is the shift in identity, from someone who reacts to reality to someone who creates with it. You begin to inhabit the role of silent observer, field navigator, conscious architect. Instead of grasping at outcomes, you trust the mechanics of the field. Instead of oscillating between doubt and desire, you hold a steady frequency. You realize that what you observe into existence isn't determined by luck, but by coherence, presence, and identity. And as this realization deepens, you notice the world itself starting to mirror that steadiness back to you. Take a moment now. Breathe. Feel the subtle shift inside you as you contemplate this. Somewhere beneath the surface noise of daily life, you already know this is true. You've seen it in flashes, in moments where your intuition was flawless, where opportunities unfolded like a script written just for you, where reality seemed to wink back. These weren't accidents. They were glimpses of your creative power unclouded by error. The question now isn't whether you can manifest. It's whether you will stop making the energetic errors that distort your signal and finally embody the precision that manifestation requires. If this journey has stirred something within you, if you can feel the field responding even now, don't let it fade back into theory. Anchor it, declare it, observe it, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. This space isn't about empty motivation. It's about uncovering and living the mechanics of reality itself. Subscribing is more than following a channel. It's stepping into a community of conscious creators who are no longer satisfied with passively existing. As this chapter closes, another opens. Because once you understand how energetic errors kill manifestation, the next step is to shed the old self entirely. If the observer effect blew your mind, you'll want to watch the next video, where we dive into the art of releasing outdated identities so new realities can emerge. The field is waiting for your next observation. And remember this, reality isn't something happening out there. It's responding to you, always has, always will. The question is, what frequency are you choosing to broadcast from this moment on?